Welcome to this discussion on Shabbat. We all know about Shabbat. It occurs every 7 days. Our sages tell us that Shabbat is the greatest gift that God had to give. Shabbat is a gift, a present, unsolicited. We didn't ask for it, and yet it is there. That means that we have a choice. We have a choice of accepting the gift or rejecting it. If we want it, if we think it is for our benefit, we will take it. Otherwise, we'll say, no, thank you, you can give it to somebody else. It is not for me. I don't need it. This means that we have not only the freedom of choice, but free will. It is our will either to have it or not to have it. And it is not easy to exercise this free will, especially in our days. Why? Because we are living in times of rapid change. Each and every one of us is insecure. We don't know what tomorrow is going to give. If we are living in times of constancy where there is very little change, we know what tomorrow will bring. But now, who knows? Who knows what will happen tomorrow? Who knows what we'll hear on the news tomorrow? Who knows if we'll even get to tomorrow? So rapid is the change of our times. And as a result, we feel insecure. And because we are insecure, we try to keep to that which we know. We want to hold on to it. It gives us security. We want to hide in our cocoons of non-change. And this means that if we have free will, we have to exercise it in the form of courage. We have to be strong. We have to have the spirit in order to make change in times where we don't want to make change. Free will, freedom of spirit, that has nothing to do with our physicality. It has to do with our mind. It has to do with everything up there. Should we exercise our free will? It constitutes an act of will. Now, the modern psychologist, Roberto Assagioli, comes to tell us all about this act of will. He has written a whole book about it. And in this book, he tells us that this act of will in exercising our free will, which is so difficult for us to do, is an act that we cannot do by ourselves. Man cannot exist by himself in this world. And if we exercise our will, we think it is a personal instrument, something that comes from ourselves alone. That is not true. If we have anything achieved through our act of will, then we do it in relation to our environment, in relation to our family unit, in relation to our community, in relation to our society. That is the only way that we can exercise this act of will. So therefore, coming back to Shabbat, we accept this gift, we do it willingly. It means that we have to change, we have to exercise our internal will. We can only do it through our family unit. We can only do it through our community. We can only do it in society. We have stated, quoting our sages, that Shabbat is a gift. Now, when we talk about gifts, we should realize and remember that life itself is a gift. Were you asked at any stage before you were born, do you want to live? Do you want to come into this life? Do you want to live here? Were you asked where would you like to be? To which family do you wish to be attached? Those questions weren't asked of you. You arrived. You arrived with a bang, a big bang. And you're here. And you're here to what purpose? Why are you here? Why were we born at all? That is the big question. Here it is. Shabbat is a gift for those who have been given a gift. So, if we add the two together, we realize that the gift of Shabbat is to teach us and to tell us how to take advantage of the gift of life. That is what it is. And immediately we go to the quotation of the Shabbat itself, where we talked about when the whole act of creation is completed, everything is complete. And then divinity creates the Shabbat. And what is the purpose? He finishes it off. And he finishes it for us to take over. That is the opinion of one of our great sages who lived in the early 1700s, after Newton. And he tells us that we have a job to do. We are born to do something positive, to make a contribution to the universe. We may be, little particles in a whole sea of life. And yet, no matter how insignificant we may think we are, we can do something to make the world different, the world a better place. And that is Asher bara Elokim la'asot. The Shabbat was instituted, finished off, for us to continue where divinity leaves off. Divinity creates something. We take over. We do the finishing touches. In what the Ramchal says, it is for us to perfect the imperfect. It is an act of tikkun. What exactly does the Ramchal mean? And he gives examples. He suggests that the world as originally created consists of raw materials. These raw materials have to be put together. They have to be formed into something to give better formation. So, we can take the raw materials and do something about it. Two examples. Wine. The Shabbat is introduced by Kiddush, a blessing over wine. Why specifically wine? What is so significant about the wine? Well, what is wine? In order to get wine, we take grapes. Grapes on trees, part of nature, part of divine creation. But those grapes, in order to produce the wine, have to ferment. They have to deteriorate. They have to become imperfect in order to improve, in order to become perfect. And so you get a decline for an incline. It is a going down in order to come up again. Now, there is natural fermentation in nature, but we come in and we make superb wine. We make blends of wine. We make something which is wonderful. And each thing that we make is better. We think it is better than that which was there before. In other words, we are perfecting something which is originally imperfect, perfecting the imperfect. And then again, there's a matter of bread. We make a blessing. We thank God that He brings the bread out of the earth. But does God bring bread out of the earth to make an excavation and take out bread? Not at all. Bread comes from wheat. And wheat has to be planted and has to mature. It has to go through enormous number of processes until it lands up on our table. And who does it? Does God do it? We say that God gives us food. He provides. Hazan et olam kulo. He feeds the whole world, including us. But the bread on the table, we bring it there. We are divine partners. We are partners of God. We are put here on earth to do something as partners together with divinity. And in terms of, generally speaking, if we want to generalize, it is a matter of bringing light to an earth where there is darkness. There is the dark Erev, and there is Boker, the morning, dark and light. We can make a change. We can make a break with the morning, break the past, improve on it, make it better, change it for the good. That is why we are here upon earth. Now we ask, how does the Shabbat contribute? How does the Shabbat help us to achieve what we want to achieve in life? I talked about dark and light. Light is the opposite of dark. And so therefore, you have opposites. You have a duality. The whole universe is a duality, and our sages tell us that is one of the reasons why the Torah begins with the letter Bet. Bet is the second letter of the alphabet. Why does it begin with a Bet if there is order? It should begin with Aleph. Aleph's the beginning of order, not Bet. Why Bet? Because Bet is two. And two means that there are opposites. Everything is in opposites. That is how God created man. What does it say in the story of the sixth day of creation of man? Zachar unekeva bara otam. Male and female, He created them. We take it in terms of man and woman, but it's more than that. It's a general term. It's a term of opposites. It's a term of the positive and the negative. Unfortunately, mankind, for some reason or other, has associated the male, the man, with the positive, the female with the negative. Yet each and every one of us has male and female in us. It's just a question of some of us have a little more male and some of us are a little bit more female. That's all it is. But we are all comprised of opposites. Duality. The whole universe is a duality. That is the basis of it all. And if we understand this duality, we can see how everything comes together. How is the universe created? We said the universe was created after nothing. How could it be created after nothing? Well, when you don't have anything, then it is a minus. You write a minus. Here it is. That's a minus sign. The minus sign, a straight line. It means something. We haven't got it. Empty. Minus. And we want it. We want something. And we ask a question. We are missing something, so we ask a question. What do we ask the question? We say, Ma, what? Ma. What is it all about? We want to know. And our sages tell us that this is a sign of sagacity, of wisdom, chokhmah. Chokhmah, koach hama, the power of asking questions. Ma, what? And have a look at the word ma in numerical equivalence. Ma is 45, and 45 is Adam, and Adam is man. If you don't understand these numerical equivalents, don't worry about it, it's not important. Adam is man. Man is created. Adam is created imperfect. He has to perfect himself in life. He has to create himself. He has to go from stage to stage. He has to better himself in the crossing of life. And so therefore, he can do it together with his opposite side. You can only bring light to the dark if you recognize the dark, the at which is missing. And here it is. I take a line. It is minus. What do I want to do? I take another minus sign, invert it, and I've got a plus. And mathematically, minus 1 times minus 1 equals plus 1. Here it is. A cross. There it is. Life begins with a cross. Crossing. That is how we started. We crossed into life when we were born. And we crossed into life. We came from the darkness inside the womb to the light upon here on earth. And there will be another crossing eventually. And that crossing will be the crossing out. Crossing out, we usually use an X. But X is multiplication. Because we have to multiply. We have to increase before we cross out. Before we go out. And here it is. We produce something out of nothing through the act of crossing. Minus, we don't have it. Cross, we got something. Plus, which we didn't have before. And now, believe it or not, we are told, and this is what we are told about the secrets of life, and life as it is today. And this is something new. Something new. And this comes from the last 30 years. In the last 30 years it was discovered that, remember, everything comes from energy. We're living in worlds of energies. Everything is energy. And what happened? It was discovered that the total amount of energy in this universe is null. Add up all the energies. It's nothing, because there are positive energies and there are negative energies. Again, opposites, positive and negative. Put them together, you've got nothing. So it is suggested, and we deal with this in other talks, in other discussions, which are available to you for you to hear, that, as it were, divinity took nothing. He divided the nothing into minus energy and plus energy. Got a universe. Here it is. Minus times minus is plus. I mentioned a little earlier that we came into this life with a big bang, from the dark to the light. It was only in the last 100 years that the idea of the Big Bang was formulated, and the whole world knows about the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe. And how did it begin? It began with what is termed a singularity. A singularity. A single point. A single point in Hebrew would be a nakuda. 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 A single point. Singularity. In mathematical terms, it is the point of the cross, the minus, the plus, forming a point in the center. that point is a mathematical point. It's the point which appears because of crossing. It's not there. And the Talmud talks about it. The KABBALAH talks about it. The mathematical point. A point that is not there, a singularity. The whole universe comes from it. We've already explained how it could. The Nakuda. From that point, everything we have, everything we see, has emerged. In other words, from that point, the singularity, which is associated, of course, with the Aleph. The Aleph 1, and Pythagoras says that Aleph 1 is not a number. In fact, the Aleph doesn't exist. And we know, and the Torah tells us, that we can't see God from the very beginning. We can't see his existence because basically we cannot perceive of his existence because he's beyond anything physical. That which is called existence. It is only afterwards, at the end, that everything fits into place. In other words, basically, at the very beginning, all is imperfect. The singularity, which becomes perfect in the end. Nothing to something. The beginning of duality. Now, the scientists tell us, and this is very important, that immediately after the Big Bang, split seconds afterwards, there was perfect symmetry in the universe, which was broken. Perfect symmetry. And now, that perfect symmetry is called supersymmetry. And that is what scientists are looking for today. Supersymmetry. In other words, that perfect symmetry, which is beyond anything, which includes all the forces. It includes electromagnetism, it includes gravity, includes nuclear forces, all the forces, as one. They don't have it yet. They see electromagnetic forces as one. They see gravity as one. Putting it together, they are unable to do it. In other words, they are unable to recreate that singularity, that single point where everything fits into one. At this stage of our discussion, I want to introduce the thoughts and ideas of one of our great Kabbalists who lived in the early 1600s. He came from Krakow to Israel. And in Israel, he was offered a post as the head in the north. But he didn't want that in Tzfat. And he accepted to be the head in Jerusalem, the center of the universe, in terms of Kabbalah. The central point of the universe, the point from which the whole universe started with a big bang. And Isaiah Horowitz, the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, talks about the Shabbat. And he mentions, remember when you talk about the Shabbat, that the Shabbat should be seen in general terms. The Shabbat is not one day. The Shabbat is the totality. The Shabbat is the whole week. We talk about the week as a Shabbat. Hayom Yom Rishon BaShabbat. This is the first day in the Shabbat, the week. Hayom Yom Sheni BaShabbat. This is the second day of the Shabbat. And you have the 6 days creation, 6 days of Shabbat. But then you want to see everything as a whole, everything as a totality, everything as one. And that is what divinity does on the 7th day. And Isaiah Horowitz, to help us, produces a model. A model. The word is model. Look at the word model. M-D-L. M-O-D-E-L. Take the model, take the letters. You got L-M-D. L-M-D is lamad, lomed, to learn, and lelamed, to teach. Models are meant for teaching. That is what a model is for. And he takes a model. And that is what we are all about. This talk comes under the auspices of graphic Kabbalah. Graphic Kabbalah produces models, models to scale, models that you can measure, so that you can learn. You can see everything from simple models. And the model of the Ari for the Shabbat is for the totality and for the day. And if you have a look at the totality, you will see that there is a round. The round is a circle. The round is the round of the week, which repeats itself. Cyclic time. There are, say, 54 Shabbatot in a year, or 55. You have 55 rounds going round. Round and round and round. Each one around. And as a result, we're all around. And then the days are divided into 6. And you will notice that it is a crossing of 3 lines. 2, 3. And that gives us a hexagram. And a hexagram is a perfect model. A hexagram is a model of the creation. Examine the hexagram, which has 6 sides and 6 points, and you will see that it basically is comprised of 2 triangles. And there is the one triangle and the other triangle, the Magen David. But it is a hexagram. Here it is. Two triangles. And if you have and analyze the story of creation, you will see it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then the ideas are repeated. 4, 5, 6 are based on 1, 2, 3. The beginning of light on the first day, and then on the 4th day, what do you have? You have the heavens which give light. All our light, the sun, the moon, the stars, all light comes from the heaven. Again, you repeat. A repetition, 2 triangles. What do you have here? You have perfection, you have uniformity. And again, from the model of 6, which is the hexagram, that is the model, for example, of the honeycomb, from which sweetness comes. Crystals emerge from the hexagram as a model. Snow, for example. All this based upon the model of 6. Symmetry. Now, that is the model for the whole week. There is symmetry in the week. And the symmetry is in order. And now, we have the crowning, the completion of the week. When everything is complete, we have the Shabbat. Now, where is the Shabbat? 6 days. But where is the 7th day? And this includes the Shabbat. Where is it? Have a look at it. Do you realize where it is? It is the point in the middle. It's the point of the crossing of the 3 lines. The Shabbat is a point. The Shabbat is a nakuda. That is what the Shabbat is. The Shabbat is a singularity. It is singular. Basically, in physicality, it doesn't exist. That means the Shabbat day doesn't exist in our physical world. And this means that we rise on the Shabbat to a higher level, a spiritual level. It is totally spiritual. All physicality is gone. And that means that on Shabbat there is no change. And if there's no change, we say it is holy, because that is what holiness means, no change. And we, as it were, begin to recreate our universe in the same way as the whole universe was created at the beginning of time. What does Isaiah Horowitz call that point in the center? He calls it a nakuda, the singularity of the beginning of the Big Bang, the beginning of the creation of the universe. The Shabbat every week is a repeat of the totality of creation from nothing. We recreate ourselves from nothing. We become complete each and every week. For the Shabbat to become one, in our instance, the Nekuda, 1 point, we have, in the light of what we have said before, that the universe is a duality, the duality has to disappear. In other words, the two, the bet, has to become Aleph, 1. Bet, Aleph. And if you have bet Aleph is Ba. Arrived, come. Ani Ba, I'm here. And who says it first? We all say it when we are born, when we emerge from the womb. Every one of cells, Ba, we're here. And that is why each and every one is called a Baba. Ba. And this act of the two becoming one, or one becoming two, it is either way, because in the case of the sun, in the morning, Hashemesh Ba. The sun rises. In the evening, Hashemesh Ba. It sets. It can be rising and setting, relating to this 1 point. This act is an act of the rrr, which is a vibration. And you get bara. There it is. It's come. Right. So, how does the duality give way to singularity? How do we demonstrate it? How do we see it? How can we conceive it? And the answer is simple. It's in our Aleph Bet, because our Aleph Bet is the source of information. Let's have a look at the Aleph Bet. Our Aleph Bet comprises 22 letters. Starts off with an Aleph and ends off with a Tav. From Aleph to Tav, to A to Z, the totality, 8 in the beginning. Everything is created as one. Here it is. 8 Hashemayim, 8 Haaretz, everything, the totality. Now, the Aleph is opposite Tav. Aleph and Tav together form a duality. Now, I can write it here. The Aleph at the base, the Tav there. Then I can go. You have Bet and Shin. And we have Gimel. And we have on the other side, Resh. At, Bash, Gar. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's called the Atbash, the opposites. the letters as opposites. Duality, they form one. Aleph and Tav form one. Bet and Shin form one. Gimel and Resh form one. They all form one. The duality becomes a singularity. And we go upwards, all the way up, until we come to the center. And at the center, you've got the kaf on the one side, the lamed on the other. Kaf, lamed together. Kol, all, everything. It all comes into there. Notice it. All comes into there. Right, here you have 22. Here you have 11, 11. 11, 11. And notice, we have ones here. They are vavs. V. Vav. There's a vav there and a vav there. V. And the vav is 6 and 6. And lamed is 12. 6 and 6 is 12. V. And V is a vibration. It's all energies, vibrations. We're getting everything is vibrating. Vibrating. The energies of the letters vibrate until they come to the V. And it's all joined together. V. Va, yehi, or. And there is light. The V's come together in here. All. And the action is the act, letter Hey. The Hey is the act of creating, the act of making. You have Hakol, you have everything. Or you have Kala. And Kala is Shabbat Kala. And the Shabbat Kala is the Shekhinah, the divine presence. And what is the divine presence? You feel the energies of coming together, the energies of unity, all coming together in the one. And how is it done? How do we do it in practice? How do we introduce the Shabbat? It is done with the first act as the woman of the house, the queen of the house, the queen who brings everything together. And what does she do? She lights 2 candles. 2 candles. Why 2? The 2 represents duality. And she makes the blessing. She brings in the Shabbat. And the 2 candles act as one. 2. Basically from oil. And everything is oil right as one. And what happens when you have 2 candles? The 2 eliminate the darkness. There are no shadows as a result of the 2 lights. The room is as one light. The light of the Shekhinah, the light of the divine presence, the divine energies acting as one. Brought about by our acts. A single act. 2 becoming one. Let us look at the Adbash again. We started off the Aleph and a Tav. 1 to 22. But add up the numbers. Aleph 1, Tav 22 equals 23. Bet Shin added up 23. Resh Gimel 23. Kaf Lamed, Kaf is 11, Lamed is 12, 23. They all add up to 23. All together. And of course, 2 and 3 is 2, 3, 5. And you've got music. Because this is the basic of the music in the temple. With 5 notes. 2, 3, 5. Everything becomes musical because it all comes together. You've got harmony here. And you've got rhythm. All coming in. Why 23? And remember, we're dealing with dualities. Where does the duality become one? And here we come to the basis of the secret of the Shabbat, which we now reveal. And to my knowledge, has not been revealed in modern times relative to the knowledge of today, the universe of today, the change of today, the scientific discovery of today, all coming together. We come back to the scientists. The scientists are trying to make everything one. They can't do it because electromagnetic forces can be joined with nuclear forces to be seen as one, but not gravity. Gravity is a big problem. Gravity, the pull of gravity. And it's the pull of gravity that gets us down. It's the pull of gravity that gets us into the grave. That is why it's gravity and grave. Serious. It's very grave. And yet gravity is a light force. And the scientists are struggling by spending billions of dollars trying to work out the unity, to discover the unity, which is known as supersymmetry. Again, supersymmetry, to get all the forces together. That's what they're struggling to do. But I've already given you the answer. The answer lies in our tradition. The answer lies on the basis of the Shabbat. The answer lies on the basis of our concept of the universe as presented by Isaiah Horowitz. Look at our world. Our world is a round. And there are two axes. There's the up-down axis, north-south, north-south, the one axis. The universal axis, the axis of what we call the universal energy field. But then there is also the axis of the human energy field. And the human energy field is that of electromagnetic energy. Our heart, for practical purposes, is electric. It works on electricity. It's the basis of our body. Our body functions on the basis of electricity. And then you've got, of course, the other axis, the electromagnetic axis, which is an axis which goes that way. Two axes. So, you get the human being as an energy field, the human energy field, which is electromagnetic. And you get the universe as a whole, universal energy field, which is due north and due south. Two poles. What is the difference between them? 23 degrees. Examine the heart in our bodies, and each and every one of us. The heart is inclined from the up down. What is the angle of the heart in our bodies? 23 degrees. The atbash brings it all together. This is what we are doing. The Shabbat takes our two poles and we become one. It's an act of polarization. And because we become one, gravity fits into electromagnetism. Gravity as a force by itself is eliminated. And we become like angels, standing on one leg. Can't do it normally. I am standing on two legs at the moment. And that is the one triangle. But there's another triangle standing on one leg. That is the secret of Shabbat. In his model, Isaiah Horowitz shows the duality, the opposites. 1 against 1, 2 against 2, 3 against 3. The 1 against 1, the top, 1 at the top is Sunday. The 1 at the bottom is Wednesday. The 2 is Tuesday. And the other side, you've got Thursday. And then you've got 3, which happens to be the next, which is, you've got 1 Sunday, 2 is Monday, 3 is Tuesday, and you've got the opposite, which is Friday. Here are the two dualities. They come together to constitute the whole. Right. Now, how do you get to the point in the center? How do we get to what is called the Nekudah? And it comes up from Malchut, in using the terms of Kabbalah. But Malchut is the energy field, the universal energy field, which contains the electromagnetic energy field. If you want more information about that, we give it in other talks, in our series of talks. We don't want to burden you with it now. But now, the Nekudah comes up from it. And how is it done? We start on Wednesday, the week of the Shabbat. In other words, the Shabbat as a whole starts on Wednesday, ends on Tuesday. That is 7 days. And what it happens is this, that with each day you come closer and closer and closer to the center until you reach the center on the Shabbat day, and then it goes out again. That is how Horowitz describes getting to the point in the center. So, you've got a big circle to start off with, the Wednesday, and then it comes closer, and then it comes closer, and you get the point. Shabbat, the point, you get to the point. It's a contraction. That is how it is done. Right. How do we demonstrate this? How can we understand it? We can understand it very easily. We can understand it through what is called the pendulum. And if we watch the pendulum, we'll see exactly what Horowitz is talking about. I'm standing with a pendulum in my hand. And the pendulum is straight when it is still because of the force of gravity which is pulling it down. Now the pendulum moves because it reflects the energy of the universal energy field which is below us. And remember that we also have an energy field. And our energy field is due to the water in us. We are 70% water. And so therefore we have an energy field, and that is the electromagnetic energy field. But now, you'll notice that the pendulum is not still. It's going round. And it can go round one way, and then it goes round the other way. Now, here's the amazing thing. When it goes anti-clockwise, the circles decrease. When it goes clockwise, the circles increase. In other words, when it goes clockwise, the circles of the pendulum increase. They get larger, expanding, an expanding universe. And when it goes anti-clockwise, the circles get smaller. It is a contracting universe. That is what is happening right now. What is actually happening with expanding and the contracting? When it contracts with the anti-clockwise, there is a charging of the pendulum. The pendulum twists and becomes twisted, all twisted. And then it stops when it's fully charged. And then it untwists and goes larger and discharges energy. That is the function of the pendulum. And that is what happens to us in the week. From Wednesday to Shabbat we are charging, and the circle becomes smaller and smaller until on Shabbat we are fully charged. And then we start discharging, bigger and bigger and bigger. An expanding universe which cools, a contracting universe which gets warmer. And that is the big thing. The warmth of the Shabbat. Shabbat is warm. We feel warm. We feel good. We feel joyful. And what is the big thing of Shabbat? It's called oneg. That is what it's called. Oneg, joy. Or neg. And what is the opposite of oneg? Opposite of oneg is nega. And nega is a plague. But what is nega in our language in which we are talking at the moment? Nega is the negative. The oneg is the positive. You are changing from negative to positive. Contracting with warmth. And the warmth gives joy. We feel good. We feel warm. We feel the Shekhinah. We are joyful. And then the other way around. That is the basis of the Shabbat. But where is it? It's all in the mind. And as a result, the body follows suit. And that is why we generate more and more from Wednesday to Shabbat, and then becomes the degeneration. And the whole process is repeated week after week. But there's more to it than that. When this pendulum is fully charged, in other words, it's fully wound up, it's absolutely still. Doesn't move at all. I've got difficulty now because it's not Shabbat. But to get it absolutely still, there is a moment on the day of Shabbat when we are absolutely still. Can you guess when? When is it that there is a totality of stillness in our mind? Well, what do our sages say? Sheina b'Shabbat.Now. Shabbat. Shin, Sheina is sleep. B'Shabbat, on Shabbat.Now. Gives honor, gives pleasure, gives joy. Sleep on Shabbat gives joy. It is absolutely essential to sleep. And when do we sleep? We go to sleep in the middle of Shabbat, in the midday of the day of Shabbat, which is one. And what kind of sleep is that? It is a total sleep, totally undisturbed. It is a deep, deep sleep. It goes to the higher self. It goes to what we read about in the morning, because we read from the Torah in the morning. And the morning deals with revelation. And in revelation, divinity becomes Anochi, the higher self. And we become higher selves in that deep, deep sleep, because the mind soars to the absolute height. And why? Because that sleep is totally undisturbed. There are no outside interferences whatsoever. There is no change whatsoever. There are no telephones. There are no laptops. There are no computers. There are no digits in our pockets. There is nothing of the sort. There is no change of light, artificial light. Everything is constant. And we go into that deep, deep sleep where we become higher selves. We reach the nakuda. We reach that point in that sleep because for all purposes we don't exist. And then we come out. And we come out for the afternoon. In the evening, we've got creation, 2, 1. In the morning, revelation. The opposites are brought together in the tables of stone coming down from heaven, which Moshe brings down to reach the Anochi, the highest self, which we reach in our deep, deep sleep. And then we get out of that and everything is echad. Everything is one. Because what happens now, I told you, there is another movement of the pendulum. And that pendulum moves like that. In a straight line. Forwards and backwards in a straight line. And what is the pendulum doing? It is following the path of the flow of energies under the surface of this earth. At the moment, it's following, there's a very strong flow of energy beneath us. There is underground water, and that pendulum is following it. It's a straight line. It's a straight line which teaches us the way ahead, how to go straight ahead. That we learn. We discover it on Shabbat. All our problems are resolved on the Shabbat. When we enter the Shabbat, we push our problems aside. We forget them. And now, the problems that we did have are resolved. Because in that deep sleep, we wake up to know the direction in which we have to go. And that direction is known as derech. And derech is the way. Derech is the way. The road. The Shabbat teaches us all we want to know. What a wonderful gift. Now, where do we have proof that the Shabbat does all this? And this is what I'm going to show you now. Have a look at the Atbash. Remember the coming together of the duality into one. Atbash. We have learned that Shabbat is a reversed process. Charging, discharging, charging, discharging, changing direction, reversing the process. That's what Shabbat does. Now, at Bash, let us reverse the process. Read this backwards. Shin, Bet, Tav is Shabbat. And then Aleph. And what is Aleph? Aleph is the Nukara. Aleph is the point. In Shabbat we get to the point. It is in the Atbash. All coming together with the 23 degrees. You want to know more? You can find out in other talks on our channels. I wish you well. I wish you to find your way in life.